Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Servants. Today we are going to be doing something a bit different than usual. Rather than explore a single or couple of historical figures, we're going to look at a more broad concept that appears in the Fate series. That is, alters. Alter is short form for the word alternative, meaning that this manifestation of the character represents an alternative reality or possibility for the hero's legends. The most common cause of this alteration is through a wish upon the Holy Grail. In the event that you are unaware, in the Fate series, the Holy Grail is an all-powerful wishing vessel that manifests in certain areas, usually but not always as a part of a ritual, or because of a large accumulation of magical energy. There are multiple grails in the series, especially in FGO, where the whole purpose of the first act is collecting grails that manifested throughout time. But why would someone wish for an alternative version of somebody else? Well, that's what we'll get into now. For the sake of this video, I want to focus only on characters that appear in Fate Grand Order. I also primarily want to focus exclusively on characters that have the Alter title. So, while some characters exist that manifest in the same vessel, such as EMIYA and Shitonai, this would not be considered an Alter. Pseudo-servants and why they are like that, and why they choose to manifest the way they do, could honestly be a video in and of itself, so stay tuned for that sometime in the future. To date, there are 10 unique Alter servants in FGO. They are Saber Alter, aka Salter, Joan of Arc Alter, aka Jalter, Jalter Lily, yes, she counts as unique, Artoria Lancer Alter, just gonna call her Artoria Lancer, Kuhlin Alter, also known as Ku Alter, EMIYA Alter, also known as Edgemiya, Mysterious Heroine X Alter, or MHX Alter, Atalanta Alter, also known as Nyalter, Chocokita Alter, or Chocokita, and Arjuna Alter, also known as the Bastard. Christmas variant and Maid variant of Salter are not going to be counted as it is the same servant but with a different saint graph. However, Artoria Lancer is an exception because her creation is different from Salter. Jalter Lily falls into the same category. MHX Alter is technically her whole own thing, so this is permissible as well. But that's enough dawdling, let's now meet the alters. We will begin with the most plentiful alter, Artoria Alter, commonly known as Salter. To date, she has a Saber form, a Rider Maid form, and a Rider Santa form. Originally, she is based off of King Arthur, or as Fate calls her, Artoria or Artoria. She would become an Alter after being exposed to the mud that flowed forth from the Fuyuki Holy Grail during the Fifth Holy Grail War. This mud was tainted by a being representing all of the world's evil, Angry Mango. Angermanio. This put Artoria through a process called blackening, which is the transformation that servants exposed to the corrupted muck go through, which flips their personalities to be more geared towards evil. Essentially, it's corruption dirt. Her armor darkened, her complexion became more pale, and her signature ahoge vanished. Some theories claim that the removal of Saber's ahoge will turn her into an alter as well, though this is not touched upon very much. What is learned from this transformation is that Excalibur, while being a weapon of the Fae, possesses the qualities to be both good and evil. A common misconception is that the sword in the stone was Excalibur. This is wrong, as the Sword of Choosing was known as Caliburn. The original Excalibur was gifted to Arthur by Vivian, the Lady of the Lake, and it is assumed that this darkened version of the blade would have been a gift from Morgan Le Fay, who existed as Vivian's evil opposite. So, this alternative would be if Artoria had received Morgan's sword over Vivian's. This theory is bolstered by the fact that her noble phantasm is called Excalibur Morgan. The other alternative is if Artoria had become someone who she believed had to be hated, and mercilessly chopped down those who would oppose her in order to maintain peace in Camelot. She still believes in taking her role as a king seriously, but to a corrupted and detrimental fault. As for her Santa transformation, in a desire to express her daily gratitude to others, she took up the mantle of Santa Claus to give gifts to others. She flies around on her sleigh, powered by her noble phantasm. Unfortunately, she scared away her reindeer with this, and so she had to recruit the Master of Chaldea. In regards to her maid form, upon learning about the Ishtar Cup race, Salter wants to participate, as she believes that the Master of Chaldea wishes for her to win. However, she believes it to be unfitting for a king to participate in such events. So, instead, she dons the outfit of a maid, planning to clean up the competition. But that is Salter. Lancer Artoria Alter, on the other hand, is something different. She exists as the possibility of, what if Arthur survived Camelin? Through the power of the Holy Grail and this Holy Spirit Wrongmeniad, she would survive her injuries, but she would become corrupted in the process. She was meant to change into the goddess of the Holy Spear, but in her final moments decided to become the King of the Storms. She chose to remain human rather than ascend to godhood. The alternative would be what is known as the Lion King, who, in hindsight, is an alter, but not really. For Lancer Artoria, she is self-aware. She remained the king of knights, but became much more severe in her handlings of language and her nation. She is aware of her transhumanism, yet still chooses to interact with the mortal realm in a meaningful way. She is someone who has the potential to be evil, but leaves the decision to the master that summons her. Now let's look at Jean Alter, perhaps the most popular of these servants according to Hentai. Jean Alter is not a separate aspect of Joan of Arc. Rather, she is Jean's exact opposite. After Jean's execution in 1431, Jalter was so distraught that he sought the use of the Holy Grail and fabricated a brand new Jean out of his own anger. One he knew was not the real Jean, but rather the Jean who he would want her to be, to destroy the country that betrayed her. This is why she appears to be so cruel and stern, while the other Jean is so kind to a fault. She's difficult to get along with and harbors an inherent distrust for her summoner. But it can be seen that over time, she does begin to harbor a form of respect for them. Perhaps my personal favorite thing regarding Jalter is this in-game quote about her desire, as told to us by a certain Count of Monte Cristo. To think that in the depths of her consciousness, she wants to perform a strained, avenged business, while being surrounded by handsome men of her own liking. You heard it here first, folks. Jalter wants to make a harem. As to why she became a loli for Christmas, well, she and Salter have a bit of an in-game rivalry going on. They have very similar personalities and compete on who is the better alter constantly. During Christmas, Jalter believed that she could be a better Santa than the Santa alter, so she drank a potion that was supposed to turn her into a Santa. Instead, it was a potion of youth crafted by Gilgamesh that had turned her into a child. She then took up the mantle of Santa Claus and was terrible at it, valuing practicality above all else. Her Berserker incarnation came about in much the same way. She was jealous of the fact that Salter had a swimsuit and demanded that she received one as well. In doing so, she became a Berserker and ironically easier to deal with. As a Berserker, she is much more honest with herself, letting loose in a way that is productive, albeit chuny. However, even in this manifestation, she is still hyper-competitive, being motivated to outdraw a Dojin that she found convinced that she could do better. Next is Jalter Alter. I love this dude. He was my second 5-star servant and has almost single-handedly carried me through every event in Story Quest. His alter form is one that is brought about by Queen Maeve's wish on the Holy Grail, for, quote, a wicked monarch similar to both myself and Cuchulainn. This Cuchulainn also went through a process of blackening, having his complexion darken, his normal blue bodysuit change into a deep reddish gray, and his generally cheerful demeanor disappear, revealing something closer to the Hound that he was so oft described as. Fun thing to note, as this is something that several commenters have pointed out to me in the past, Ku, as well as all the other Celtic heroes, wear these bodysuits because the Celts fought in the nude covered in blue war paint. On this note, the fact that Ku Alter appears with his chest out and grows thorns and fur from his body suggests that he is actually going through a bestial transformation, and that as you see him now, he is completely naked. Hi. Anyway, the other part of him that is worth bringing up is that he no longer uses Guy Bulg as his noble phantasm. Instead, he goes through a more devastating transformation. He covers himself in the bones of two ancient sea monsters that I will now attempt to pronounce incorrectly. The Curid and the Conhan. Guy Bulg is said to be made from the bones of these beasts, so when he unleashes his noble phantasm, he's covering himself in Guy Bulg. Something that is touched upon in the America Singularity is that being stabbed with Guy Bulg is not just a normal stab wound. It is a wound that does not heal, and the spear always aims for the heart or the belly. In fact, the name Guy Bulg can loosely mean belly spear. The other effect of the spear is that when you are stabbed, thorns crawl through your veins and you die a slow, painful death, as seen with Rama during the America Singularity. In the case of Ku Alter, these thorns grow quickly and act fast given his incredibly brutal Noble Phantasm animation. Edgemiya is one that I've been curious about for a while, and the only one who I was completely unfamiliar with, as I do not have him, nor have I been exposed to any of the source material that he is from. He is corrupted by sin, in the most literal way possible. He is inextricably tied to Szechuan Kiara, who was a cult leader turned demonic bodhisattva. From what I can find, the details on why EMIYA decided to pursue Kiara are slim. Given that he was a member of the Counterforce, there was likely a disturbance detected from the growing cult. To answer the question as to what the Counterforce is, the Counterforce exists as guardians of the world. The world recruits heroes in order to protect it from things that would end all of humanity. Several servants and people have been recruited into the Counterforce by making a contract with the world. People such as EMIYA, EMIYA Assassin, and Chocokita Alter, who we will get into briefly. Back to Edgemiya. Perhaps if Kiara was given enough influence, she would truly consume the world. The outcome, however, remains the same. EMIYA tracked her down and killed her. But, in the process, he had to kill a great number of innocent people as well. This is what ended up tainting him and causing his blackening. EMIYA Alter, however, is not evil, as many other alters tend to be. He is instead calculating to a fault. He retains his cool, level-headed demeanor as often as he can, but he puts logistics and results above all other things. He is someone who believes that just because a decision is heartless does not mean that it is wrong, and is willing to enact judgment without mercy. Honestly, he reads and acts more like a robot than anything else, but that is who EMIYA Alter is. MHX Alter delves into the Servant Universe side of Fate, which consists exclusively of gag characters that are actually good. Before someone gets uppity and claims that they are not gag characters, they are all literally based on Star Wars. I mean, look at this. Anyway, this one is probably the, how to say, most goofy of the alters, both in terms of character and how she came about. So in FGO, there is a character called Mysterious Heroine X. She is modeled after Artoria, but as a space assassin police officer. Alright, still with me here? Well, to further reinforce the gag character aspect of the Servant Universe stuff, she debuted in 2013 as a part of an April Fool's gag called Back Alley Satsuki Chapter Heroine Sanctuary, which seems to just be a crossover between the various Type Moon properties, in which MHX goes around killing Saber-type characters. MHX Alter was made using MHX's X gene by Agravain of the Dark Round Table, which is shaped like a Kotatsu. Are you still with me? She was created in order to defeat Mysterious Heroine X. So she is very unique in that aspect, that she was not a corrupted version of an existing heroic spirit, but one invented using the DNA of one. Though MHX Alter was created to kill MHX, her memories were sealed by Space Agravain at the destruction of the Dark Round Table by Professor Babajan. You can't make this stuff up. Making her into a sleeper agent. She would then find herself absent of memories as MHX's high school roommate. Eventually, she would recall her memories and join a villains group, I believe, that is actually just called Villains, but as abbreviated. Back to a more serious beat, we have Jalter Alter, or Nyalter. This is another very unique transformation as an alter. Rather than being corrupted by the curse of the Holy Grail, this is something that has always existed with Atalanta as a servant. The pelt of the Caledon Boar exists as one of Atalanta's noble phantasms, and she becomes an alter through a process called Agrius Metamorphosis. The Caledon Boar was a cursed animal that Artemis sent to the city-state of Caledon to wreak havoc when the king neglected to make proper offerings after the harvest season. The boar itself killed many Greek heroes before eventually being put down by Atalanta, though the death blow would be delivered by Meleager. Given this reputation, the pelt itself harbors many curses within its fur. When put on, Atalanta transforms and gains a substantial amount of power. She takes on a lycanthropic appearance, transforming into a half-beast, half-man creature, and receives a madness enhancement. However, she is still able to maintain her usual calm demeanor. That is, so long as her master follows the rules that she had decided on. Generally, this just means to do what is right for the common folk above all else, especially children. Given how she acts in Lost Bout 1, her attitude towards children in particular is a large factor into whether she can trust her master or not. The only time she allows herself to become fully consumed by the curse of the boar is during her noble phantasm, when her entire demeanor shifts to one of pure, outright hatred and aggression. Fun fact, if you roll Jalter Alter, theoretically she can remove the pelt herself and become her archer form. Her alter transformation is one that is entirely based on what she decides to do. Alright, next is one that I touched on a little bit in my chronology video. Chocokita Alter. So, there are actually two origin stories for Chocokita Alter. One, and this is the one that has been retconned, is that Chocokita Soji took in the power of the Holy Grail that held the souls of 7 heroes and transformed into Chocokita Alter, similar to Blackening but not quite. Think of it more like a Pokemon evolution. This was done so that she could join the counterforce. The second, and I believe now canon, origin is that Chocokita was born prematurely and was going to die. However, her sister's prayers were heard by the world, and they split the damaged part of her soul from the main Chocokita and created Chocokita Alter, who was designed intentionally as somewhat of a single-use bomb, essentially something that would go off when a major event required such a force. As such, when she is first encountered in-game, her mentality is equal to that of a baby. Over time, she comes to be able to understand language and emotions, and eventually is able to fight effectively on her own. This would eventually grow into a full-on love and affection for the Master of Chaldea, and this emotion is even more readily enforced by her survival through the single-use design. Chocokita Alter believes that she survives her single use because of the emotion for love that she feels towards the Master of Chaldea, so if you have her, cherish her. Thus, She is one of the very few characters in FGO that bluntly declares their love for the Master of Chaldea, joining the ranks of Boudica in pure wholesomeness. Our final alter is my least favorite of the bunch personality-wise, but I've got to hand it to his usability and art design as some of the better in the entire game. Arjuna Alter is a bastard. This is the most spoilery of these alters, hence why I put him at the end of the list. So if you do not want to be spoiled for Lost Belt 4, thank you for watching the video. You can go ahead and skip to the end or go to something else. Go watch like clips or cooking videos or something. Well, this has been your warning. Going live in 3, 2, 1. Look at this craft essence. As someone who is fortunate enough to have strong familial bonds, this hurts my soul. But why? Why is that? Well, let's go into it. Arjuna Alter is another strange creation. He is the product of a what-if scenario that was pruned away by proper human history for being a dead end. The whole pruning phenomena works something like this, assuming I'm understanding it correctly. Imagine that the multiverse theory is real. Now, imagine that even though an infinite number of universes are going on alongside ours, the one that we inhabit is the quote-unquote right one. All of the other multiverses fall to the wayside eventually due to them becoming a dead end for humanity. That is why Lost Belts exist. They are possible outcomes for humanity, a what-if scenario. They are like an alter form of the universe. The fourth Lost Belt is the what if Arjuna decided he wanted more power, and slowly took on and killed every single deity in the Hindu pantheon and absorbed their powers, save for Ganesha and Kama. That is Arjuna Alter, a former human that has transcended the species through absorbing deities and losing the human side of him altogether. It is often stated that should gods really exist, they would look upon humans in much the same way we look upon field mice. Though we can make out differences in genders, if a million were scurrying around in one place, we would not care to notice the differences at all. Arjuna Alter came to the conclusion that the world was imperfect, so he decided to create a whole new one. In Hindu mythology, there is a series of cycles that go on, known as the Yuga cycle. Yugas are essentially ages, with a capital A. They include Krita or Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Forgive me if I mispronounce any of those. The cycle itself lasts approximately 4,320,000 years, and each portion has a degrading length. Krita Yuga lasts 1,728,000 years. Treta Yuga lasts 1,296,000 years, Dvaparta Yuga lasts 864,000 years, and Kali Yuga lasts 432,000 years. The cycle begins with Krita or Satya Yuga and is a new beginning for all things. Evil is practically non-existent during this time period. But as each cycle ticks over to the next, worlds degrade by 1/4, and humanity in the world becomes more evil, until the world is reborn again, resetting the cycle back to everything being good. It is believed that we are currently in the Kali Yuga, which is believed to have started in 3102 BCE when Arjuna was originally meant to die. I promise you that this is all relevant as it pertains directly to Arjuna Alter. He began hastening the Yuga cycle so that he could fix the imperfections of the world more quickly. Growing impatient with the million years of waiting, he began to force the cycle to go quicker. He did this enough that he was able to get the cycle to begin and end in mere days, using the God of Time's authority. Every time the cycle would end, Arjuna Alter would carefully remove all things that were not perfect, such as the injured and those who stood against him, and those who he perceived to have any form of flaw. This would result in people with even the most minor of injuries vanishing and being wiped from the memories of those who knew them. Except, not quite. It is a large part of the story of Lost Belt 4 that these people's minds may have been wiped, but their souls remembered those that they had lost, as shown at the very end of the story with Asha crying alone in her bed, feeling that she was missing her father and her dog, realizing that something was gone and will never return to her. It is worth mentioning that Arjuna Alter, who was summoned in Chaldea, is not the same one who was defeated in the Lost Belt. His connections with all of the gods, save for Shiva, have been completely severed, and he returns to a much more human personality. He still acts coldly and robotically, but is trying to understand humanity and how its flaws are not necessarily evil. This is evidenced through his Bonsi. So, the summoned Arjuna Alter is okay. But that is a very, very brief explanation of all of the alters that we currently have in FGO. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you would like me to cover a specific servant, please let me know in the comments. Subscribe to catch these videos when they go up. Follow me on Twitch for significantly less structured content. But until next time, keep your chin up. Peace.